Krishna. I offer my humble obeisances to each and every one of the assembled Vaishnavas here. Depending upon your prayers today, we'll start this subject. Difficult subject, we can say. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namavom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nidhi Namini Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarini Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. We are in the chapter 16, Adilila. Today the shlokas verses are beginning from 41. So just a recollection of the chapter. If you see the arrangement of the chapter 16, the pastimes of Lord in his childhood and youth, it is having 111 shlokas, and 1 to 25 shlokas are like Lord's tour in East Bengal and meeting with Tapan Mishra Prabhu, and Lord's first wife Sri Lakshmi Devi's disappearance, and that sections and all already we have seen. And Srila Krishnadasa Kaviraja Goswami has given very long description, 26 shloka to 111 shlokas for Keshava Kashmiri, Lord's meeting with Keshava Kashmiri topic. Already we have covered up to 40 shlokas, 26 to 40 shlokas. The first section of this section we covered by His Grace Bharatagraja Prabhu last week. So from 41, today we will see the further discussion. Actually, this is very long, up to 111 shlokas. So today we will cover as much we can do within the time permit. So this section actually Srila Vrindavana Dasa Thakura in his Chaitanya Bhagavata, he elaborated much more elaborately. Actually, much more description was there. But still, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he also given so many shlokas, 26 to 111 shlokas. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also given. See why this section has is much important. We have to understand first. So this section very elaborately describes the Lord's dealing with devotees. Actually, Chaitanya Charitamrta, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita totally means totally based, the main point is based the devotees relations main point. So if you see the dealings of the Lord, then especially for us sadhakas and the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, it is very important to understand and to learn the Vaishnava dealings, especially. Whether if you see the Lord's dealing with Prakashananda Saraswati or Keshava Kashmiri or whoever, Chandkazi or wherever, especially even though they are very great scholars, and Lord dealings are very wonderful with them. Usually in the material world, if you see, if we are puffed up or if we are great scholars means, then our tendency is like that. Always we have to criticize other devotees or fault finding. This will be our the mentality, like conditioned living entities mentality. But the Supreme Lord is a Supreme Lord, so he shows a exemplary behavior towards these scholars also. Towards the Lord exhibited mainly the hate, the sin, not the sinner. Lord takes a very humble position and he crushes their pride. That is the speciality of the Supreme Lord. Especially this section describes the Lord's behavior with Keshava Kashmiri. Already Keshava Kashmiri's introduction covered last week. Keshava Kashmiri was a great scholar. In fact, those times the number one we can say, and he is having a title Digvijay. Digvijay means who is conquered from all directions. Dig means directions, Vijay means victorious, victorious from all directions. In those days, this Digvijay system was like that. Whoever was defeated in hands of this Keshava Kashmiri, they used to, he used to write a certificate. They used to give a defeat certificate, of victory patra, that Jaya Patra, something they say. So, so that all the directions he conquered so many scholars, and then he was thinking about the Navadvipa. And all we know, Navadvipa those days, it is a educational hub, we can say, great scholars and all, they used to reside there. So this Keshava Kashmiri was thought, okay, I will go to now Navadvipa. There he was hearing about the Nimai Pandita. I will also see. Once Navadvipa, I will take victory, then it is easy for me. It means this Digvijay means will be complete, like that he was thinking. Then he came to Navadvipa. Then in the Ganga shore, banks of Ganga, Lord meet Keshava Kashmiri. This also we covered last week. Then, but the main point is Lord take very humble position and Lord glorifies Keshava Kashmiri. Keshava Kashmiri, then he says, you are Kavivara, you are very great scholar, all this and all. Then he says, in that section we have seen already. Then we will go to today's section, which is from 41. Text 41. Mahatvam Gangaya Satatam Idam Abhati Nitara Yadyesha Shri Vishnu's Charana Kamalotpatti Subhaga Dvitiya Shri Lakshmi Ivasura Narair Archa Charana Bhavani Bharturya Sirasi Vibhavati Adbhuta Guna. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The greatness of Mother Ganges always brilliantly exists. She is the most fortunate because she emanated from the lotus feet of Sri Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. She is a second goddess of fortune, and therefore she is always worshipped both by demigods and by humanity. Endowed with all wonderful qualities, she flourishes on the head of Lord Shiva. Before section we have seen Lord took very humble position and he asked Keshava Kashmiri to recite the some instant poetry. Then Keshava Kashmiri, he wants to exhibit his talent. So immediately, continuously for 3 hours, 100 shlokas on the spot, he recites. Then in that 100, after 100 shlokas, then Lord asked, Lord, rewind that shloka, remember that one shloka, and what he quoted. This is the shloka which quoted by Keshava Kashmiri and re-quoted by the Gauranga. Then we will see what he is asking. Lord is asking some questions to Keshava Kashmiri. Ye shlokera arthakara prabhu yadi baila vismita hana dikvijayi prabhura puchila. Translation. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him to explain the meaning of this verse, the champion very much astonished, inquiring from him as follows. Then Lord quoted this shloka and Lord asked to explain the meaning, this shloka meaning to Keshava Kashmiri. Then Keshava Kashmiri was so much astonished because he was thinking he was mercy showered by goddess Saraswati. So there is no opponent to him. So he was literally puffed up. He was thinking, 100 shlokas I have recited, and how anyone could able to remember that one. And how he recited the shlokas, he is telling. He's telling, Janjavata prayami shloka padila, tara madhya shloka tumi kaiche kanta kaila. I recited all the verse like the blowing wind. How could you completely learn by heart even one among those verses? How he was reciting the shlokas? He's reciting all the verses like blowing wind, Janjavata. Like that, if somebody talking very faster accent, that time following them itself is very difficult. And very like here, the speed is compared with the blowing wind. Then how anyone could able to catch? And he's asking, how could you completely learn by heart? That shloka, a full shloka, again quoting as it is means it is very difficult. That's why he was very much astonished. Then Lord was telling, Prabhu kahe devara vari tumi kavivara, aiche devara vare ke ho haya shruti dara. Translation. The Lord replied, by the grace of the Lord, someone may become a great poet, and similarly by his grace, someone else may become a great Shrutidara, who can memorize anything else immediately. But in this connection, Shrutidara is a very important word. Shruti means hearing and Dhara means one who can capture. Formerly, before the beginning of Kali Yuga, almost everyone, especially among the intelligent men, the Brahmanas were Shrutidharas. As soon as a student heard any of the Vedic wisdom from his master, he would remember it forever. Shrutidhara word, Prabhupada has explained in some places, even in Bhagavatam also. So here in the translation, Lord is replying very humbly. Lord is not replying in the way, see, I'm the Supreme Lord, or not in that way. He is telling, by the grace of the Lord, he is telling, I am the Supreme Lord, or I am seated in everybody's heart, and from me only remembrance and knowledge coming. No, he is not telling like that. He is telling very humbly, he is telling, by the grace of the Supreme Lord, someone may become great poet. Here, actually, Acharyas are explaining, Lord is taking very humble position, and then he is making their pride crush. He is crushing their pride. If you see, if we get the defeat by somebody, we will feel like a insult or something. But Lord's dealing, we can see no one who have get defeated by the Lord, they were not unhappy. Whether it is Prakashananda Saraswati or whether this Keshava Kashmiri, whoever, um, they were very happy. In fact, later they surrendered with their whole heart and they become pure devotees. This is the special quality of the Supreme Lord. Then here, one important word Srila Prabhupada is explaining about Shrutidhara. Shrutidhara means who can capture everything by hearing. That's why actually hearing, our ears are given very much importance in our Vedic culture. Why we are piercing the ears also? For that one only. We see the Vedic students before going to the school in some proper age, they pierce their ears. Why? They are honoring that, because through the ear the Vedic knowledge goes into, and it plays a very important role. That's why that system was there. Hearing was very important. So in those days, Prabhupada was explaining, those students and all, they don't have any books, pens. But today, if we compare, for us, even scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Chaitanya Caritamrta, we can operate in our mobile, on the hand, by hand. For everything we have reference. But in those days, it is not like that. Most of the Brahmanas, Vedic students are Shrutidharas only. They just hear from their spiritual master and they will remember without consulting books. Then Srila Prabhupada quoting a reference. Yadyad vibhuti matsatvam srimad urjitameva va tattadeva gachatvam mama tejo amsha sambhavam. Whatever we see in the universe, beautiful or glorious creations, whatever we see, it is the spark of the Lord's splendor. We have to see that one. So this Shrutidharas also, they are also, we can see energies of the Lord only. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is very greatly proud, he was thinking Mother Saraswati's mercy was there on me. So I'm very much scholar like that. But he forgot the actual matter. The Lord is the creator of everyone. So we will see the further section, how further dealings of Lord with Keshava Kashmiri. 45. Shlokera Artha Kaila Viprapaya Santosha Prabhu Kahe Kaha Shlokera Kiva Guna Dosha. Lord was playing, actually, he is a hidden avatara, we can say, so many names. Gupta avatara, he was not revealed to each and everyone, only to very special people only. Lord revealed his supremacy. Since he is a supreme Lord, but his role, he is acting like a one of the man, but in the Vedic system, the duty of the Brahmanas, the duty is teaching Vedas to others. So Lord's deep study was the principal activity, and in the very young age, around 11 years of the age, he became a scholar. Pandita means very learned scholar. The title was given him as Nimai Pandita. But here, Lord was taking a humble position, and he is asking Keshava Kashmiri very humbly, please explain the meaning of this quoted verse. In this, there is in the Vyakarana, actually, there are so many grammatical rules and definitions in the Sanskrit language, which are very actually extremely intricate. I don't know about others, maybe they can understand, but this section is totally a puzzle for me. Just I was understanding Lord is approaching Keshava Kashmiri very humbly, and Keshava Kashmiri later he surrendered. Everything was origin was Supreme Lord. This much only I know. As per the grammatical Sanskrit language, actually Sanskrit language is the gateway of the education. We can say one can who learns who can master in that Sanskrit. They can very easily understand the scriptures. So as per in that rule, then the Sanskrit grammar in the debate, there is a system which they have to analyze the qualities and faults also. In that glorification, some ornaments will be there and some faults also will be there. Only masters are in that language only can able to understand those. So he was, Lord was asking Keshava Kashmiri, please explain the special qualities and the faults both in that. Then Vipraka he shloka nahi dosheda bhasa upama lankara guna kichu anuprasha. The Brahmana replied, there is not a tinge of fault in that verse. Rather, it has the good qualities of similes and alteration. Then Keshava Kashmiri was replying, he is not ready to accept any faults in that shloka. Then he was telling, no, there is nothing in the shloka, no faults were there. In fact, he was started telling. Then Parpat. In the last line of the verse quoted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the letter Bha is repeated many times, as in the words Bhavani Bhartur, Vibhavati and Adbhuta. Such repetition is called Anuprasha or alteration. The words Lakshmir Iva and Vishnu's Charana Kamalotpatti are instances of Upama Lankara, for they exhibit metaphorical beauty. The Ganges is water and Lakshmi is the goddess of fortune. Since water and a person are not actually similar, the comparison is metaphorical. So very humbly, actually, Lord has pointed both faults also and 5 literary ornaments, alankaras also, both the things he pointed out. That much analyzation is simply like impossible or very difficult, we can say. Then Prabhupada further explaining. Prabhu kahe na kahi yadi na karaha rosha, kaha tomara ye shloka ki baache dosha. The Lord said, my dear sir, I may say something to you. If you will not become angry, can you explain the faults in this verse? Then Lord was replying, oh dear sir, I will tell you something. Please don't be angry. Please explain the faults in this verse. Pratibhara kavya tomara devata santoshe balamate vicharile jani guna doshe. There is no doubt that your poetry is full of ingenuity, and certainly it has satisfied the Supreme Lord. Yet, if we scrutinizingly consider it, we can find both good qualities and faults. Lord is telling, by your recitation, there is no doubt with your poetry, the Supreme Lord must be satisfied. But if we consider it very scrutinizingly, if we further analyze scrutinizingly, we can find both good and both bad qualities also there were there. Tate bala kari shloka karaha vichara kavi kaheya kahile se vada sara. The Lord concluded, now therefore let us carefully scrutinize in this verse. The poet replied, yes, the verse you have recited is perfectly correct. But still, the Keshava Kashmiri, he is telling there is good points, alankaras are there, but there is no faults in that one. Then Vyakaranaya tumi nahi pada alankara, tumki janibe kavitera sara. Then the Brahmana, the Keshava Kashmiri, he was telling, you are an ordinary student of grammar. What do you know about literary embellishments? You cannot review this poetry because you do not know anything about it. Then the Keshava Kashmiri, he was telling, he was pointing the Lord, what do you know? You are just a student. You are a young boy. You don't have rights, as we discussed before. Are discussing the grammar, debating and scrutinizing assessment, that is not for everybody. Very greatly scholars only can able to do that one. Then he is telling Keshava Kashmiri, you are a student. Then how you can able to analyze this shloka? Bharpat, Keshav Kashmiri first wanted to bluff Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by saying that since he was not an advanced student in literary style, he could not review a verse full of metaphors and literary ornaments. This argument has some basis in fact. Unless one is a medical man, he cannot criticize a medical man. And unless one is lawyer, he cannot criticize a lawyer. Prabhupada is giving an analogy. Until and unless one can a doctor, he can't able to point out, he can't able to analyze or criticize a medical person. Same the lawyer also. So Keshava Kashmiri, he first trying to depreciate Lord's position by telling, you are a only student. You what do you know? I am a great scholar. What do you know? But Lord reply is very interesting, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the champion, a student of grammar. How could he dare criticize a great poet like him? Lord Chaitanya therefore criticized the poet in a different way. He said that although he was certainly not advanced in a literary career, he had learned from others. He had heard from others how to criticize such poetry. And as a Shrutidhara possessing a complete memory, he could understand the process for such a review. Lord is telling, I may not be learned, but I heard from the great scholars. So here also very important importance given for hearing. So by hearing, it is a authorized, we can say, by reading maybe one may not be perfect. Acharyas were explaining, but by hearing from authoritative source, we becomes perfect. So Lord is telling, I may not have studied, but I am having the authority of hearing from authoritative sources. Lord was telling. So he is telling, I am having that authority. Prabhu kahe na atayeva pujiye tomara vichariya guna dosha buja ha mare. Taking a humble position, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, because I am not on your level, I have asked you to teach me by explaining the faults and the good qualities in your poetry. Lord was asking, I'm not on your this much your level, but that's why I am asking you explain both the faults and good qualities. But Keshava Kashmiri is not ready to accept the faults. Nahi pade alankara kariya cha shavana tate ei shloka deki bahu dosha guna. Certainly, I have not studied the art of literary embellishments, but I have heard about it from higher circles, and thus I can review this verse and find in it many faults and many good qualities. But the statement Kariyacha Shravana, I have heard it, is very important in the sense that hearing is more important than directly studying. We discussed already this one. If one is expert in hearing and hears from the right source, the knowledge becomes immediately perfect. This process is called Shrauta Pantha. Shrauta Pantha, hearing process, or the acquisition of knowledge by hearing from authorities. All the Vedic knowledge is based on the principle that one must approach a bona fide spiritual master and hear from him the authoritative statements of the Vedas. This already we have seen in the Bhagavad Gita also. It is not necessary for one to be highly polished literary man to receive knowledge. To receive perfect knowledge from a perfect person, one must be expert in hearing. This is called the descending process or deductive knowledge or Avaroha Pantha. 53. Kavi kahe kaha deki kaun guna dosha, Prabhu kahe na kahi suna nahi karila rosha. The poet said, all right, let me see what good qualities and faults you have found. Lord replied, let me speak and please hear me without becoming angry. So the Brahmana, the poet was telling, okay, all right. Okay, now you tell me, I want to hear from you. What are the good qualities and faults? Okay, then Lord replying, let me speak, but don't become angry. Without getting angry, just please hear me. Lord was telling in a humble way. Lord was telling, Panchadoshaye shloka panchalankara krameyami kahe sunakara vichara. My dear sir, in this verse there are 5 faults and 5 literary ornaments. I shall state them one after another. Kindly hear me and then give your judgment. Lord started replying. Lord told, my dear sir, in this verse, there are 5 faults and 5 ornaments. Alankaras, we can say, even in the music, we say Sangatis also. There are poetry actually, we uses, especially Lord's poetry glorification, Uttama Shloka, we can say. There is best poetry under. There are so many metaphors, alankara, so many alankaras will be there, which means increase their value much more. Like that, in the as we discussed, this scrutinizing assessments and all only possible, only can do by only great scholars only. So Lord Gauranga immediately, Nimai Pandit, we can say. Nimai Pandit actually is the correct. Lord immediately, he said, my dear sir, there are 5 faults and 5 literary ornaments are there. Prabhupada has given very elaborated explanation in the Parpat. In the verse beginning with Mahatvam Gangaya, the first verse which we started the class today, 41 verse is the reference verse. From that verse actually that verse analyzation is going on. In that verse, the first line Mahatvam Gangaya, there are 5 literary ornaments and 5 examples of faulty composition. There are 2 examples of fault called Avimrishta Vidheyamsa, and 1 example, each of the faults Viruddhamati, Punarukti and Bhagna Krama. As I said, I don't know the elaborated meaning of all these. Only for just understanding the situation only I have studied. That's why I'm reading complete Parpat of Prabhupada, but I couldn't able to analyze much more. Only I can understand Alankaras means that is the ornaments for the poetry, and faults means doshas in the poetry. All these Vimrishta, Videyamsa, detailed explanation and all actually, I don't know. Please forgive me. Vimrishta means clean and Videyamsa means predicate. It is a general rule of composition to establish a subject first and then give its predicate. For example, according to Sanskrit grammar, If one says this man is learned, his composition is in order. But if one says learned is this man, this composition is not in order. Such a flaw is called avimrishta videyamsa dosha, or the fault of unclean composition. The subject matter to be known of the verse is the glorification of the Ganges, and therefore the word idam, or what is known, should have been placed before instead of after glorification. The subject matter already known should be placed before the unknown, so that its meaning will not be misconstructed. The second instant of avimrishta videyamsa dosha occurs in the words Dvitiya Sri Lakshmi Iva. In this composition, the word Dvitiya, second, is Videya or unknown. Placing the unknown first to make the compound word Dvitiya Sri Lakshmi is another fault. The words Dvitiya Sri Lakshmi Riva were intended to compare the Ganges to goddess of fortune. But because of this fault, the meaning of the compound word was bewildering. As Lord explained, he found 5 faults in that we can see. The first word, he pronounced in the first line, Mahatvam Gangaya. In that, predicate and subject were he mentioned wrongly. And here, Dvitiya Sri Lakshmi Iva. He compared, the Keshava Kashmiri compared Ganges to Mother Lakshmi. That is second fault. And third fault is that Viruddhamati, or contradictory conception. In the words Bhavani Bhartuhu, the word Bhavani refers to the wife of Bhava, Lord Shiva. But since Bhavani is already known as the wife of Lord Shiva, he added the word Bharta, husband, thus forming a compound meaning the husband of the wife of Lord Shiva is contradictory. For thus it appears as if the wife of Lord Shiva had another husband. Bhavani means wife of Bhava. So here Keshava Kashmiri added Bhavanir Bhartur. So Lord pointed this third fault. The fourth fault is Punarukti, or redundancy, which occurs when the verb Vibhavati flourishes, which should have ended the composition, is further qualified by the unnecessary adjective Adbhuta Guna, endowed with wonderful qualities. The fifth fault is Bhagna Karma, which means broken order. In the first, third and fourth lines, there is Anuprasha, or alteration, created by the sounds Ta, Ra and Ba. But in the second line, there is no such Anuprasha, and therefore the order was broken. This is the detailed explanation by Srila Prabhupada, which Lord Gauranga pointed out the 5 faults. Then 5 alankaras also comes further. We will see text 55. Avimrishta videyangsha duitani chidna viruddhamati bhakna krama punarata doshatina. Translation. In this verse, the fault of Avimrishta Videyamsa occurs twice, and the faults of Viruddhamati, Bhagnakrama and Punarata occur once each. So, Lord is telling the details of the 5 doshas. Gangera 56. Gangera Mahatva Shloka Mula Videya Idam Shabde Anuvada Pancha Videya. The glorification of the Ganges, Mahatvam Gangaya, is the principal unknown subject matter in this verse. And the known subject matter is indicated by the word Idam, which has been placed after the unknown. The arrangement of the words used by Keshava Kashmiri. So he was a devotee of the Ganges, so he has given much more importance to Mother Ganga, and he composed the verses in that way. 57. Videya aage kahi pache kahi la anuvada Eyi lagi shlokera artha kariyache bada. Because you have placed the known subject at the end and which is unknown at the beginning, the composition is faulty and the meaning of the words has become doubtful. 58. Anuvadam anuktaiva navideya udiraye nahi alabdha shapadam kinchit kutrachin pratishtati. Without first mentioning that is known, one should not introduce the unknown. For that which has no solid basis can never be established anywhere. This is the verse from Ekadashi Tattva. There are so many grammatical rules and all explaining here. Dvitiya Shri Lakshmi Han Dvitiyatva Dvitiya Shri Lakshmi Han Dvitiyatva Videya Samase Gauna Haila Shabdate Gelakshaya. In the word Dvitiya Shri Lakshmi, a second all opulent goddess of fortune, the quality of being a second Lakshmi is the unknown. In making this compound word, the meaning became secondary and originally intended meaning was lost. Actually, up to the shlokas 71, this explanation of the false was there. But today's time, we already, today's time was get over. We will continue with the next speaker next week from 60th shloka onwards. Actually, this is a very long, as we said, up to 71 shloka, this description was there. Then 72 to 86 alankaras was there. We will see that further. Prabhu,
thank you, Mataji.
Yeah.
So you covered up to 59, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Though it is, as you said, it's a not easy subject to understand because of more technicalities of Sanskrit grammar was discussed, but you explained so nicely the essence of all this, the discussion between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Keshav Kashmiri. That is more important for us than understanding the real grammatical jugglery of language. Thank you so much, Mataji. Thanks for making us to understand.
Thank you so much.
Devotees have any questions, comments? Request them to, if we have a little time. No questions from anybody? Nityananda Prabhu, Gautani Mataji, Bir Krishna Prabhu.
I think Mataji has not left anything to ask, Prabhuji. It was well
Not
prepared.
like that, Prabhu. This is very complex subject.
I think despite Mataji is not well, I think she's coughing, but she delivered so nicely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing. I'm fine, Prabhu.
So, there are no any further comments, discussion. We can end the session here.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Nothing to add from my side also. Mata, you can glorify Chaitanya Charitamrta.
Shri Chaitanya Charitamrta ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari. Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Ananta Koti